Ah, yes. Mario Maker.
Are you a creative person? Trick question. The answer is yes. All human beings have a creative capacity. Kermit the Frog did a whole TED Talk on it, so you know it's legit.
The Republicans.
Believe it or not, one of the many ways we as humans exercise our capacity for creativity is simply by playing games. Video games with mechanics rooted in acts more easily recognizable as creative, like painting pictures or creating characters, are arguably some of the most creative experiences one can partake in. Nintendo made one such experience, called Freakyforms, Your Creations Alive, back in September 2011. That was over a decade ago, so I am thusly obligated to make that observation paired with an implication of existential dread, stemmed in the stark realization that the passage of time has rendered me unrelatably old from the perspective of my 2011 self, yet here I am not married or owning a house, but making a YouTube video about a children's game with a sock puppet on my hand.
Yeah, I know how this looks, YouTube, but don't restrict or demonetize me. I say damn sometimes, darn it. Heck, I'll even say hell. I am a talking sock. That's my name and what I am. And I ask only for a moment of your time as we discuss Freakyforms, Your Creations Alive. A piece of art that I consider to be a masterpiece of game design. Really.
So what exactly is Freakyforms, you may be asking? What's the gameplay like? How does it control? How fun is it? How's the pacing? How's the design? Why do you think it's a masterpiece? Okay buddy, slow down. One thing at a time, I only am one hands.
I'm like 3.
Freakyforms is a game wherein you create characters called formies by overlapping simple shapes. You then control your formies as you explore simple, incrementally unlocked 2D levels on your very own planet, wherein you partake in quests, collect items, and unlock more shapes and levels and such to make more formies to explore more levels and blah 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 blah. I played the deluxe version of the game that came along later with some extra features as well as a physical release. Glory be and the saints be praised. When the game starts, it holds your hand quite a bit.
Come on, man, please, I'm begging you. I need those hands. Without it, I'm just like one hand. I want to be...
It shows you bit by bit at a much too patronizing pace how the ins and outs of the game work. But seeing as how this game was literally meant to be accessible for absolutely anyone, most especially and obviously young children, I can let this slide. Plus, once it's done, the amount of freedom you have within its systems is downright inspired. The exploration segments of the game are fine and all, and I will divulge more on them later. But it's largely the character creator that makes this game a masterpiece by my estimation. Have you ever, at any point in your life, been presented with a coloring page and deliberately chose to color in or even modify the picture in some way that was clearly not intended? Freakyforms is the epitome of that phenomenon in the form of a game. You are encouraged, empowered even, as the player, to make this world and its characters in your own image. And what few restrictions exist that would limit you from simply drawing whatever you want and calling it a day, present themselves almost like challenges that might compel you to come up with creative solutions for bringing your vision to fruition. The pre-made formy characters in the game do a good job of outlining examples of just how creative you can get with these guys, but even they only scratch the surface of what's possible. I mean, just check out some of the ones I've made. A great amount of character pieces have to be unlocked through the exploration part of the game, but I don't mind it. It serves as a great reward for engaging with the rest of the game because sometimes the right piece makes all the difference in better realizing your artistic vision. Plus, what's the point of making all these formies if you're not going to play with them, you know? Part of what makes the creation system so impressive in its robustness is the fact that you're going to take these abominations out and about on the town. Oh, by the way, the levels you explore are also fully customizable. Why have boring old trees when they can instead be statues of mighty apes?
If I had a nickel for every letter I've ever written to my local congressman with that exact sentence.
Naturally, some restrictions apply to the things you customize, but none that feel like they prevent you from making what you want. Well, I mean, unless you want to make a formie with no animated mouth, but you can hide it if you really don't want it. Why does every formie you make need a mouth? To eat food so they can lay eggs, silly. You know, between formies and Yoshi eating things to trigger egg laying, one has to wonder if Nintendo genuinely believes eggs are just hard poops with a prize inside.
Come on, Nintendo, when are you gonna learn? All poop has a prize inside. It's called blood.
I think you should see a doctor.
Should I? I don't see one here.
During levels, you complete tasks and eat food so you can get eggs. At the end of a level, you tap the eggs on the touchscreen repeatedly until they crack and reveal their sweet, sweet prizes inside. And unlike poop, the prize is not blood.
Get a checkup, man!
Inside these eggs are those unlockable parts I mentioned before, but also coins and sometimes challenge formies. Challenge formies are the best. I know this is kind of a tangent, but there's this mode introduced in the deluxe version where you get these formy silhouettes and you have to try and build what you think they look like. Or, you could just not, but come on, accept the challenge on some level, you gutless anarchist. I mean, just look at some of the ones I've made. Yeah, this mode is incredible. 10 out of 10. Wish there were more. Now, anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, the eggs. Tapping the eggs does get a tad tedious after a while, but there's an element to them that keeps the process surprisingly fresh. You see, each egg has a sweet spot that will give you a coin bonus if you tap there specifically. If you find it on the first tap, the egg breaks instantly. So yeah, that's a nice way of gamifying this element of the game in the game. It's a little gameception, one might even say. I don't know, this old meme, does it check out? I don't know. So yeah, eggs basically just give you the means to do more in the Formie Creator, and the coins let you buy skills for your formies to use in the levels. Oh my gosh, how have I gone this long without talking more in depth about the levels themselves? Right, so in these levels, you control your formie by tapping outside the circle on the bottom screen on the left or right to walk in those respective directions. You drag the circle itself to move the formie's body independently of its legs or wheels or absence of anything, I don't know, you do you. And if you pull the circle down and release it, the formie jumps. If it has wings or fins, you can also tap anywhere outside the circle to let it freely swim or fly, albeit temporarily. I felt pretty put off by this control scheme at first, but I got acclimated to it pretty quickly, and honestly, I don't think it's bad at all. Even if I would probably prefer a traditional button scheme. Nevertheless, this control scheme only goes to show how the developers really thought outside the box in order to make this game accessible to anyone, while still retaining that core adventure game type of appeal. If this was just meant to be a baby's baby game with no qualities outside of flashing colors and keeping Bink from wandering into another construction site, they could have easily just given us the character creator and like a variation of the main menu's top screen display, but with an option to like throw at apples or clean up its poop and call it a day.
If he says poop one more time, I get bingo.
Dash it all. I haven't got a prayer unless he says the phrase, "Get my snack on."
Anyway, in the levels you're given a small segment of time, maybe a minute or two, to do small tasks for the non-playable characters, eat food, lay eggs, disturb the neighbors, justify the 3D display, and new to the deluxe version, explore dungeons. These dungeons are an extension of the levels that forego the time limit. In them, your goal is to reach the bottom floor, fight a boss, reap your spoils, and move on. There's a story element wherein the king is kidnapped and you're exploring the dungeon specifically to find him, but it's just sort of whatever to me. I'm glad the story element's there, but I don't think I'd miss it if it wasn't. Anywho, dungeons mix light puzzle solving, dungeon crawling, and standard point A to B gameplay into the standard level gameplay. It's a bit more involved than standard exploration, but nothing that'd be too difficult for a toddler. There are even turn-based battles and random encounters with enemy formies here, except you don't choose what move to take when it's your turn. Every battle just plays automatically, and you need to pray your formie stats are up to the task. There is some pretty cute flavor text though, so at least that's something. Your formie stats are decided by what parts you've given them, how big or small they are, and what skills you may or may not have purchased for them or found in the dungeon. Because you're constantly battling enemies and each dungeon ends with a boss, you'd be justified in thinking it's game over if you run out of health. And you're right! But you're smart. Good looking too. Hey, have you considered liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell? So yeah, these dungeons are fairly bare bones, the levels even more so, but they're still plenty enjoyable on their own terms. As I said before though, the masterpiece status of this game I attribute to creating the formies themselves. I genuinely believe it's just that good. Spore could never. And I do love Spore. Aesthetically, this game is very well realized too. What with its simple solid colors, readable shapes, and borderline experimental soundtrack that combines the order of a marching band with the chaos of children at play, all performed through a soundscape that I'd describe as funny waddling animal chic. If I've got one major complaint with this game, it's that you're only allowed to make so many formies at a time. You need this heart meter to have at least one full heart in order to make a formie, which is such a 2010s Nintendo why not take a break thing to do.
I'm a grown man, my plane doesn't land for another 2 hours, and I want to make another for me, Miyamoto!
One last prominent feature of this game I want to mention, but have sadly yet to experience and may never get the chance to, is the bevy of sharing and street pass aspects. See, each for me you make, you can share with others via QR codes. There are even some floating around online that I've picked up here and there. With Street Pass, you'd be able to visit other players' planets too, and even participate in a mode called Formies Together, where you and some friends can all make formies based on custom prompts. And I love the fact that the prompts are handwritten with a stylus too. I can't confirm, but do indeed suspect it allowed for things to get unintentional. If Nintendo ever makes a port or sequel and brings this feature back, I'm 100% inviting some friends to basically do our own version of Doodle Dudes. They're slightly artistic with it.
Whoa, did you see that? That was a thing of horror, no doubt. This means I've opened up Pandora's box. That's what I get for mentioning a possible sequel.
Okay, hey, hi, welcome to the channel. I talk about games and series that Nintendo neglects a lot and lament the fact that they aren't getting new entries. Freakyforms is totally one of them, and I've talked about it in like 2 other videos before, blah, 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 blah. I'm not gonna talk about what I'd specifically want in a sequel because that could really be its own video if I felt like it. But what about the possibility in and of itself? How likely is it that a sequel will exist someday at all? Well, the odds are never zero, but I wouldn't hold my breath. The game was developed by a small and obscure Japanese company called Asobism. That sounds like a mental ailment. Who've developed some mobile games and just last year in 2021 put out their first self-published title, Vivid Night. They developed Freakyforms alongside internal Nintendo studio Brownie Brown, or as they're known today, 1UP Studio. If either of those 2 names this Nintendo studio goes by ring a bell, it's likely that you came across the latter in the credits of any 3D Mario game from 2012 and onward, and it's likely you haven't seen the former in the credits of any game because they developed Mother 3. Editor's note, this is not a joke made at the expense of Mother 3's quality, it is a joke made at the expense of Mother 3 not having been localized. It's very funny and original, I have blood in my poop.
He would never say get my snack on. I've never heard him say that.
Given how busy 1UP Studio likely is with supporting development on Mario titles and Asobism's wildcard status, I doubt we'll see a sequel to Freakyforms anytime soon. But if it ever does happen, you best believe I'm picking it up day one.
Well, that's everything I wanted to say about Freakyforms for this video. Now it's your turn to join the discussion. Have you played the game? What do you think of it? Do you think I'm being a little too generous with my masterpiece of game design attribution? If you've got something to say it in the comments below, please. Oh, and I just thought of something. If you have any QR codes of formies you'd care to share, drop them by my Discord server or at me on Twitter, and maybe we can get that going. Could be fun. Links to both are in the description. Anywho, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all that fun stuff. Until next time, I will see you the next time I see you. Whew. Now that this video is over, I'm gonna go get my snack on.
And it's done! Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I know this isn't like a massive video, but lots of Citra headaches and hyper-specific gameplay involved in getting this one done. Thanks as always to my patrons who for $1, $5, or $10 a month keep the dream alive. Dump of the month is dropping soon, guys, as is a big update post. Really ought to do that more often. I also think I've activated super thanks here on YouTube for those of you who just want to drop a one-time tip. That'd be unbelievably kind of you should you feel so inclined. Anyway, I'm gonna go to sleep now. Happy midnight. See you next time I see you.